As of right now, it is 6:56 a.m. The flower barn is very silent, and this week you're gonna get a different kind of episode. It's gonna be a solo, so welcome to hearing my voice for the next probably 30 minutes. But while being in the design world, I wanted to talk to you guys, specifically brides, honestly, about how to pick the flowers by the season, like according to spring, summer, and fall. So we're just going to dive right in, and I'm going to tell you guys, if you're listening in and you have a laptop or a phone in front of you, it will be beneficial to you guys so that you understand where we are and what I'm pulling from. So if you go into our website and you go into the weddings tab at the top, there's going to be a drop down menu where there are seasonal galleries. There's going to be spring, summer, autumn, and winter, fall, and winter. Alrighty, so we're going to start in spring, and there are a lot of questions that we get asked in the spring, and spring is pretty, I want to say, self-explanatory in a way, because you can kind of tell what's coming. It's pretty traditional in the way of like daffodils, but that's like early spring. But in the sense of flowers, spring flowers are from probably the beginning of April to probably the beginning or end of June, depending on the weather. So, and honestly, it's my favorite season because there are so many different textures. Not that you can't get that in fall and summer and winter, but there's just something about that spring flush that just gets me. So, if you're scrolling through the website, we have blue and white. We've got our bright and wild. We got jewel tones. We've got pastels, and of course, the pastels and the blue and whites are always going to be the spring favorites on top of the like neutrals and greens and whites and things like that. So I'm going to run through the explanation of the seasons first, and then I have a couple questions that I have written out that we get asked frequently when it comes to picking your flowers, picking your color scheme, because sometimes we have brides that know exactly what they want, and then they come out to our fields and go, oh, I love this flower. I didn't know it existed. And these are the things that I want to change within my color scheme, which is totally fine. But it's what we're here for. It's what we do. So starting out with blue and white, there are, within the pictures that I see, this was Brett and Alex's wedding. And on top here, we've got the hide-ins. Let me look. All right. So within this top row, there is eucalyptus, there's larkspur, peonies, snapdragons, there's ferns, eryngium, which honestly, unless the eryngium is eaten by the deer, which has happened before, we have eryngium, which is kind of our saving grace within the blue flower world. We have it probably until about maybe summer, fall. It just depends on how the weather is. If it gets too humid, sometimes it can get a little funky. And other times it lasts for forever, and then sometimes it gets eaten. Honestly, the deer tell us what's going on. And underneath, with Brett and Alex's wedding, she's got a lot of silver dollar eucalyptus. She's got agrostemma, which is a very early spring flower. We've got hypericum berries in there. More snapdragons, which is another saving grace in the world of flowers and, just texture and things like that. That was definitely a hot day. That was a warm day. You could see that some of the flowers are they're a little heat irritated. But yeah, blue and white is a very different kind of blue and white in the spring. There's different textures. There are different hues. And then as we go further into the summer, hydrangeas start to come in. And that bright blue hydrangea can come into play with it. So you wouldn't have that in like early spring, because these weddings were looking at the flowers and peonies. This one was in May. The other wedding, I'm pretty sure, if I can remember off the top of my head, was in, it was still early. I'd say it was probably June or May or June. Just again looking at the flowers. So we're gonna move down to the bright and wild, and that's pretty self-explanatory. That's Wildly Nave's favorite. Bright, fun, colorful, big, kind of like bold and in your face, but in a good way. Just bright and happy. We've got tulips in the bottom row. We've got calendula and bachelor buttons and a ton of peonies in the top row. Bright colors, jewel tones, have a lot of pinks and purples and reds. And honestly, red is not a normal color that we get asked. And I apologize in advance. It is pouring outside this morning. So if you hear the rain, I'm under a tin roof. So we shall see how that goes this morning. It's going to be interesting. But back into jewel tones. Again, it's a lot of fun color and not usually something that we're asked to do, especially in the spring. We usually get that in fall and then at like the back end of summer. But when we have a spring jewel tone wedding, we have a lot of jewel tone spring flowers, and people just don't pull to it more. So if you like that kind of in your face, high contrast, a lot of different textures in that way, jewel tone is definitely your stride and your style to do things. And the flat lays are always my favorite. With the pastels, again, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of peonies, a lot of peaches and pinks and whites and pale yellows and things like that. Pastels are a great way to still keep that elegance and want to add in some color, which of course is always my favorite. We've got a couple flower crowns, and the neutrals are green and white, and we've got a cascading bouquet with ranunculus and peonies and stock, and there's veronica in there. There's astrantia. Let's see, what else? There's peonies. There's more eucalyptus. There's godetia, wax flower. There's more, there's allium in here. So if you need an explanation, this is probably the podcast for you. And we're going to scroll down and go into summer. And summer again is pretty self-explanatory. The typical kind of bright, bold, in your face, like, and I will tell you the story about Kylie and Brody's wedding. It's still to this day one of the top weddings that our blue and white gals come to us and ask for. I was never a big fan of blue and white before Kylie's wedding, but she trusted us with her vision. But I'll explain more of that later. So more blue and white, different textures, but different kinds of flowers. So in summer, again, how you've got the hydrangeas in here, which is what I was talking about earlier. You've got, and this wedding was in June. Her wedding was June 24th of last year. And then hey guys, Lizzie here. I bet you didn't know this about me, but I am gluten-free, and one of the things that I struggle with is going to the grocery store and finding the foods that fit my dietary needs. What I have been doing for the past couple of months is ordering from Hungry Root. Now, Hungry Root is an online company where you can order groceries off of their website. It's full of produce, crackers, cookies, to muffins, to meats, and all the different types of snacks and things like that. They have made my life so much easier in the process of finding foods that fit my dietary needs. There are filters that you can adjust, such as non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, paleo, different preferences and things like that. So what they have done for us, because they're such a generous company, the Hungry Root team has given us a 40% off discount code on your first box. So if you use the code FLOWER40, and that's capital FLOWER 40 at checkout, you will get 40% off your first box. I'm so excited to team up with these guys. They've made such an impact on my life in the morning and to my day-to-day life, and I hope you experience the exact same thing that I do.
All of the information will be linked down below, including the link to where it should already be pre-applied to your cart when you hit the link and go to their website. And I will also add the code at the bottom for easy access in our show notes. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy your first box through Hungry Road.
When was her wedding? I think this bottom wedding was in August. I think I could be wrong. There's so many that blend together. Nicole would definitely know. But she's just got a lot of green. She wanted a round bouquet. She's got a lot of lisianthus and waxflower. She's got some allium in there, more ferns and eucalyptus and things like that. The bright and wild. So the top one was Leah and Kevin, and they had an amazing wedding. She wanted more like citrusy colors and bright, and this was actually in Rock Hall last year, and she wanted to tie in the sunset colors because her family's property was right up against the water, so it was just absolutely beautiful. It was a stunning day. It was perfect weather. Like you couldn't have asked for anything better that day. The second row is just more fun wildflowers. That's all that she wanted. She's like, yeah, you guys can figure it out. Wildflowers, make it pretty. And honestly, when our brides tell us that and they're like, oh, I want a wildflower wedding, this is my season, these are my favorite colors, go from there. We're like, okay, great. And we just knock it out of the park every single time. It makes my heart happy because, when you say to us, we trust you, that's just that's what we want. We want that trust from you guys. And then the bottom row is super bright and fun. They were kind of trying to tie in the like the lemon perspective, fun wildflowers, just petite bouquets. You've got some zinnias in there, marigolds, so you can see the flowers starting to change in this one for sure. We've got gerbers or dahlias are peeking through. More hydrangeas, zinnias, celosia. That's when you could definitely start to see the difference. The hardest part for us though is honestly when our spring flowers and our summer flowers are in that weird transition phase. So when we've cut and cut and cut all of our spring flowers, and then from there it turns into our summer flowers, sometimes there is a gap in between when we have really, not really old, but like older plants from the spring, which are still putting out a couple flowers here and there because we've cut most of them. And then our summer flowers are little itty bitty guys. So we've got like onesie twosies. And again, it just depends on the weather. If we've got a really hot spell that comes in, it takes out all the spring flowers and then it pushes all the summer ones. But if we've got a good transition, then it slowly goes from spring and they start to slowly die off and we can still cut from them a little bit. And then summer just pops up out of nowhere. So it's it's definitely up to the weather and the deer. And then jewel tones, pretty, again, self-explanatory, bright, fun, purples, reds, pinks. I would say more, not like fuchsia colors, but more colors that are not your typical wedding floral, I guess. So like your neutrals and relaxed kind of colors. There's like hot pinks and magentas, and really gonna make those pictures like pop against the people and the settings and the bridal party and things like that. So summer pastels can sometimes be not difficult, but there's not as many pastel colors, which I always think is funny. I would think that it would be pretty well rounded, but in spring, other than a couple flowers here and there, you have a lot of pastel colors in the spring, and in the summer, you've got like bright red and like tithonia, which is the Mexican sunflower for monarch butterflies, and they're these like bright orange and they're beautiful and they're soft and they smell amazing and they grow like 10 to 12 feet tall if you just let them go, and it's absolutely beautiful. But here we've got our hydrangeas, we've got our pale zinnias, and I think this is when nature starts to be, what's the word I'm looking for, directed and I guess has been shifted by us and our scientific perspectives. Some of them will say, like seed packets, will say a different variety that has been made up in a lab. Sometimes, flowers have been crossbred. Every once in a while in the field, when we've had like zinnias, especially, we'll have onesie twosies that have been like never seen before. We wait for it to come out. We actually don't use it or put it in a bouquet because we want to enjoy it. Or if it's just a funky color because it's been crossbred by, Mr. Bumblebee, and then it just shifts and changes into this like striped kind of color, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Um, so coming through there, there's bubblerum, more larkspur. We've got some feverfew, and this is a good mix of like late spring, summer kind of colors as well, because you can get all this stuff in summer too, but not in like August summer. This is like June, July summer. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference. Like you can tell when like fall's on the way, the sun feels a little bit different. Like the light is starting to change. Um, More Orangium, see, so it's down here in the bottom in the summer as well. And again, it just depends on if the deer are going to eat it or not in the field. And we've got our electric fence up, so hopefully they're staying out of there. Because as of right now, on Wednesday, February 28th, now 7:11 in the morning, we walked out in the field yesterday, and they're about maybe 3 inches tall. We've got little babies growing out there, so we're getting there. It's slowly getting there. And then down here at the bottom in the neutrals is more hypericum, astros. We've got some mums in there. We've got some more waxflower. We've got a lot of different kinds of ferns. We've got some stock. So, it depends on the weather. So a lot of things can change. Every year is different for us because we're like, oh, remember last year when we still had blah 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 blah, and it was, completely different. All right, so my second favorite is autumn. I love summer. Don't get me wrong, but autumn just has a different kind of feel, especially since you have the tail end of your summer flowers that are still growing, and then your fall flowers that are sturdy to some of the cold that's coming in. We've had some brides mix in some dried pieces as well. We've got that it's a time of year when like people want to use grasses and like oranges and reds and like deeper yellows, and again more like bold but just different. Like you wouldn't see these colors in the spring. So that makes it very, very special. So this top row underneath of Harvest Hues has dried and fresh mixed together. And she actually saved, there's lotus pods in her bouquet and in her other pieces. She saved all of her grandfather's lotus pods from the year throughout the year and the year before to be able to use in her wedding, which I thought was really cool. She was like, don't break them. She came in with tubs. She had so many. Like we had extra, but it was absolutely incredible. It just felt so special. So special. And then the second row, she wanted potted plants down in the center of her table. So she had that. She wanted more like terracotta cinnamon vibes, I guess, is what she had started to explain, like in her bouquet and in her ceremony flowers, which was awesome. And then the last row is just typical fall, bright, still kind of using those summer tones, but you've got your reds, you've got your bright oranges and your yellows and your golden hues like that. All right, so we're scrolling down to bright and wild in the fall, which is again arguably one of my favorite because the dahlias start to come in and there's like a little bit of spring mixed with your fall flowers. So you'll have like zinnias and dahlias mixed together, which in the spring doesn't happen because the zinnias haven't grown yet. So you've got some celosia in there, you've got your hardy eucalyptus, you've got these bright like jewel tones, and then unless it's preferably asked for pink, then we'll use our gerbers and then zinnias and lots of textures and greens and things like that. So it was definitely one of my favorites. Okay, so scrolling down to jewel tones. The top row was Bren and Zach's wedding from last year at Camp Taqua, and she had a ground arch with driftwood. She had flowers lining the lights in her tent. So we had flower stems and we would hook wire around the bottom of the stem and make a hook at the end so that they would hang upside down. And honestly, it's a genius idea because if you want to save your flowers, they're already hanging upside down to dry, and we put them in a bucket filled with water, and we unhook them and hang them up there, and it was an incredible day. We have a blog about it, and you guys should definitely go take a look if you want to go look at that one. She had a lot of fruit on her tables. She had actually saved all of her reception chairs for months, months and months and months ahead of time from antique stores and Goodwill and things like that. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. She was an incredible person. He was the nicest human. But if you want to go look at that, go look at Brennan and Zach on our blog. You definitely can't miss it. This second row was Halloween inspired. So she had like reds and magentas and textures and things like that, but they actually built um their coffin arch, not just their coffin. They didn't just build their coffin, but they built their arch to make it look like a coffin. So it was very personalized. She's got a lot of cool pictures. The next one was probably still to this day the fullest huppah arch that we've ever done. Um, we had anthurium, we had amaranth. There's, let me see. Oh, can't remember the name. Trying to name them all off. Not Godisha. It'll come to my brain. It's the really long spiky flowers, but there's astros in there. There's a little bit of blue. There's eucalyptus. Like it's absolutely stunning. I love her. Love, love, love her wedding. It was at Britland. Um, and then this last one was actually at Hazelwood last year. And then this was Talia Cook's wedding, and her photographer was Emily B. It was absolutely incredible. I know I say that about all these weddings, but our people are just incredible. Like, I don't have any other words, but they had so much fun. It was just a different kind of vibe. A lot of disco balls, and they had a scattered vase wall behind them with little shelves behind their sweetheart table. They had fall tones, they had pastels, they had a lot of different stuff. So it was really cool. Um, and then scrolling down to the pastels, this one wedding in here was at Ken Island Resort, and then the other one was at Warsaw Manor. So both of these weddings wanted white and color, but little like pops of colors. They wanted white and green, but with like pops of pink. And that was at Warsaw Manor. And then the top one was she wanted pops of purple and pink. But it was like lilac purples. It wasn't necessarily like bright ravens purple, but it was they moved together so well. And I remember making this bouquet in the fall, and I knew that it was going to be probably one of my favorites. And still to this day, it's probably one of my favorite like white green little pops of color bouquets because it was the textures in this is just incredible. She had a stilby, she had um hydrangeas, zinnias, veronica, dahlias, mums, gerbers. Let's see what else. Eucalyptus. I'm trying to zoom in. Let's see what else. She had some yarrow in there. Like, it's just waxflower. Like, you name it, she had it. And those are my favorite bouquets. Neutrals are just your typical green and white, different textures and things like that. So it was really, really cool. So we're gonna go into winter. And winter's kind of a tricky time for us because sometimes when we get asked, "Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that?" And again, depending on the weather, unlike this year, like in December when it was 62 on December something, December 19th, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we try to use as much as we can on the farm, and if it's early, we can catch the last bit of our flowers, and we pull a lot from the trees. So like crepe myrtle, after they flowered, they have these green berries, and we pull from there. We use little stems and add those different kinds of textures that you wouldn't normally see. We've got more eucalyptus. We've had pine cones strung into things before. And Kenley, our top seed head, she was in one of our past episodes at the beginning of our season. But we were able to pull like ilex berries. We ordered in some white ranunculus, and we actually do have a wholesale license, which allows us for just in case of emergency if we have a crop failure or if we have a grandmother that wants a gardenia specifically for her corsage on her wrist. We have a wholesale license just to triple check and make sure that we can take care of you guys in any way possible. So we've got a lot of different stuff in the fall. We've got magnolia leaves, we've got more eucalyptus, but actually later in the season with our eucalyptus specifically because we can watch it, when it gets cooler, it starts to turn red. So on the edges, you've got little accents of red on the leaves. More berries come into play. Our iridium is still coming in strong. So we've got a lot of different stuff. You guys should take a look at our gallery. So again, if you wanted to look, you go onto our homepage. On the top menu bar, you've got weddings. You hover over that, and a drop down menu will pop up, and you click on seasonal galleries, and it will take you to whichever season you would like. Okay, so we are going to go into the questions for today. I think we are going to start with question. We'll do this one. So, how do you know what season to pick? Describe spring, summer, and fall and winter. So, I kind of just went through that, but honestly, I know a lot of people come to us and they're like, "Oh, it's September." And, Pinterest is a wonderful contributor, but sometimes it can give you false information, especially, with being in Maryland. What's blooming in California is not going to be blooming in November in Maryland. Um, so we try to be as realistic with people as possible when it comes to spring, summer, fall, and winter flowers. And I joke with people all the time in May and early June, like, oh, like you guys will be the ones that have, you're the lucky ones. You've got the peonies because we only have our peonies for from the time that they start to bloom and pop open to the time that they can have their longest life possible in the cooler. We only have them from bloom time to cutting the first one to cutting the very, very last peony. And last year we cut from one 50-foot row. And I did all the math last year. I counted every single one of those peonies that we cut from that row. And they're staggered up against each other, but the row is probably about 3 years old, I think. I think this year will be the fourth year. They are my pride and joy. I love our peonies. We only have them for a short amount of time, and they only come in once a year. So I I take pride in cutting them and counting them every year. But last year we had about 1,500 peonies come through our flower barn door. When if we use them for flowers, if we use them for drying, if we used them for petals down the aisle, we try to use our flowers in every single way possible so that they don't go to waste, because it breaks our heart when they go to waste if we have to throw them out. Um, because we work with a shelf life product. Flowers have a shelf life unless they're dried, but we can't sometimes we can't take every single thing into account. And again, the weather is a huge contributor. If they're about to pop open and we don't cut them in time and it's about to pour and get hot, like pouring rain, the rain falls into the petals and opens them up that much faster. So if we don't catch them in time, we lose them. And that's the last thing that we want to do because peonies are so expensive. So expensive. So what season to pick? Honestly, I wish people would take a look at their flowers first. Like if so what I've heard before is if you have a list of things for your wedding, if you've got, you know, if you don't really care about the venue and you just kind of want a space, but you want your photographer and you care about it and you want your flowers, and that's like your top two things on the list that you want. Like, this is my vision, this is what I want, this is what I want to focus on. You know, talk to florists and see what's in season so that you kind of have an expectation, because my favorite is when people come in and they're like, oh, this is what I like, but it doesn't have to be this. That helps us so much more because we can create your vision according to the season, especially since we're a flower farm. And again, we've got a wholesale license, so if you have to have, you know, white roses or something specifically for your mom's bouquet if she's walking down the aisle with you, or your grandmother's bouquet or corsage or whatever, like we can do that. It's totally feasible. Or an orchid, like if you need a white orchid for your bouquet because it means something to you because your mom had it, we can do that. But you it's going to make it easier to do your research according to your season, because I can tell you right now, I don't know, this is what's going to lead into the second question. What if I want peonies in the fall? If you want white peonies, pink peonies, red peonies, whatever you want, striped peonies, if you want peonies at the end of November, or hellebores that are probably one of the first flowers to bloom next to forsythia and daffodils in the spring in November, they are going to have to be shipped from probably China, or who knows where, because there's greenhouses everywhere, so God only knows when they've got stuff going on everywhere. It is possible, but it makes it difficult. It is not easy, and if they don't have it, if no one has it, and they don't have them in stock, or they don't have them cut, or they don't have them ready, it's going to be what it is, and you kind of don't really have a choice. So if your dream is to have pink peonies and have them everywhere and you want it in October or November, there are options to help you still get that vibe. Like dahlias are a great option. Sometimes you can get ranunculus, but like in orders you can get them, but still it could increase costs, it could add more stress to you, it could, it's going to depend on what you want. But if you want peonies in the fall, kind of going to have to stretch for that a little bit, because like if we have someone up in May that's coming to us and be like, oh yeah, I really want peonies, that's perfect, absolutely perfect. But then in the spring, like I said before, jewel tone weddings aren't necessarily normal in the spring, so we kind of lose that super bright in your face kind of look. So we have like dark pink, magenta kind of peonies, and sometimes we don't get to use them all because it's not what people want. And that's okay. It happens. We dry them, we save them, and we do what we can with them, and pretty much we always use them up. But seeing them sit in the cooler just breaks my heart a little bit. So we are going to hop into the third question, and that is what we like to do with our customers according to the seasons and how we work with you while sticking to the farm feel. So our process is you submit your email and your first name to have your inquiry with us. You see our brochure, we do all the things, we schedule a phone call, and then you send us your Pinterest board, which is great. But how we like to work with you, be like, well, kind of what I just explained with the peonies, like this is feasible, but it might not be all of these things. Or you could have one picture with Orlea in the spring. It's a very light, delicate white flower that honestly grows like weeds out in the field, but it's besides the point. But like we have it up to our armpits in the spring. But if you want it in August, that's not going to work because they're gone and they do not ship well, and we don't recommend that. So, and winter weddings are usually pretty simple. You kind of what you're going to get in the winter. People are expecting that, but fall is like, oh, I really want this. Might not be what you want, but we have different options to help you still get that look and that vibe and that aesthetic and things like that. So the next question, I know I kind of went through that third question a little bit quick, but I feel like I've added a lot of information into that one. We just want to work with you guys as much as possible to get what you want, but still doing it in a sustainable way. But moving on to the fourth one, what about dried? What about houseplants? What about adding in different textures? And I can tell you, I am all for it. Dried flowers, I'm in for it. It's just so different so different than your normal. And either I feel like there's two sides. You either love it or you hate it. So I'm kind of in between. I'm not doing dried for my own wedding personally. But adding them into other people's stuff is incredible. I think it's amazing. You're reusing, you're being more sustainable. It's incredible. So, and what do you do if you have no idea what you want? What if you have no clue? What if you kind of have an idea and you don't know what you want? That's where we come in. That's where we talk to you and be like, okay, tell me about your favorite color. Tell me about what you're picturing on your wedding day. Are you picturing blue and white? Are you picturing pink? Are you picturing textures? Are you picturing a ton of round focal flowers? Like, what gravitates you towards flowers? Like, are you a fan of hydrangeas? Do you love celosia? Do you love feverfew or zinnias? Like, there's a big difference between the two. So I'm going to tell you a story, and this is about Kylie. Hi, Kylie, if you're listening. I'm going to tell your story about your wedding and when you first came to us. So Kylie's flowers, again, if you go into our website, seasonal galleries, you go in the summer, and you scroll down to blue and white. Kylie came to us about a year in advance of her wedding. Honestly, I think about like a year and a half. And it was like, I think it was 2022, honestly. It was a while, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I mean, she was on top of it. It was like good for her, um but yeah, it was pretty early. And I was like, "Okay." So we had a lot of time to work on her mood board, her florals that she wanted, her ideas and things like that. So she came to us and she wanted blue and white. And I'm just going to talk about color scheme. I could talk about her compotes and the centerpieces and the aisle and all of that, but we're just going to talk about the color scheme today. We're gonna do her actual wedding setup a different day, so stay tuned for that episode. Um, but she wanted blue and white, but she said, "I trust you guys with what you do. Make it beautiful." And we went back and forth to see like what kind of blue and white, because there's screaming dark blue hydrangea blue and white, and there's like pastel light blue and white. There's like baby blue and then like blue. There's two very different like color schemes with that, which is totally fine. And honestly, you guys, when you come to us and bring your pictures of or Pinterest boards of what we have posted, Kylie's is the one that always gets pulled. I love this. I loved that. I love this, but I don't like this, but I want to add that. She had so many textures, like just in these 4 photos. She had Dara, eucalyptus, feverfew, dahlias, foxglove, hydrangeas, snapdragon. She had forget-me-nots. She had larkspur, veronica, God, you name it, she had it. Orangium, she had a little bit of that in there because she didn't want like a ton of navy blue because the boys were in navy blue and so were her bridesmaids. But it was truly incredible. It was amazing. We came in and we set stuff up, and then probably about 2 weeks before her wedding, we made a mood board as a final discussion piece, and we came together and figured out what she wanted, like what kind of flowers. And I made one up, and we did change stuff. We took some flowers out. We put some things in. Like, we try to work with you guys as much as possible to get your vision, because you only have this day once. You only have like this moment, those memories, you only have them once. And our goal is to create a space where you can see, touch, smell, feel, like, and honestly taste if you could. There's a couple flowers that are poisonous, but we want to have that whole sensory vibe for you guys, and that's what our job is. Like, you have your bouquet and you're going to have it in pictures. I want to offer options to you guys so that you know what's out there. A lot of people, and sometimes a lot of florists, are like, "Well, this is what we've got. Take it or leave it." Unless it's on the dinner table from my mom. That's that's kind of the vibe that we go for. So we want to be here for you guys when we want to create things that are beautiful for you from a different perspective, because I've heard multiple times, well, I love this florist, but you guys just have a different approach to things. You have a different style, and I think it's more my vibe. So and we grow and learn with you guys. So the more unique and different and crazy you have as an idea, and honestly, if you're willing to do it, we are here for you. We're, it's what we're here for. It's our job. So, alrighty, guys, I just wanted to say thank you for all of the flower talk this morning. I had an amazing start to my day, and I wanted to come in and get it done before you could hear anybody else. And I think the rain stopped, so I hope you guys didn't hear the pouring. It might be trickling just a little bit, but I hope you guys had an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing day whenever you are listening to this. You can find us at the Flower Files on Instagram. You can find us at Wildly Native Flower Farm on Instagram. You can go on our website through Instagram, through our Linktree link on both platforms. And the podcast you can find on Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google Podcasts. There's a couple other little guys in there that I've seen that I don't remember off the top of my head, but our little Flower Files family is growing, and it makes me so happy. So I hope to hear from you guys soon. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope it is sunny and warm wherever you are. But if you are in a different country or space or something like that, let me know. Come say hi over on Instagram. Come say hello. Come say hi. That's all that I could ever ask for. And ask questions. That's what we're here for. So, thank you guys. I hope you have an amazing morning, day, afternoon, wherever you are. And I'm going to love you and leave you here. I will see you guys soon. Bye.
Hey guys, just dropping a line to tell you about Patreon.
So I asked them, meaning Mom and Amber, what is Patreon anyway? Because I honestly had no idea. So we're going to explain it to you from our perspective so that you understand and so that I understand.
Because the first time I saw it, I was like, Patron? We're drinking tequila? Great. So Patreon is for less than a cup of coffee, those fancy coffees that y'all like, a day, you can sign up to become one of our members.
A little family.
Exactly. And what does that get us?
It gets us some freebies, some special episodes that other people do not get access to. You can interact with us on a special platform where we can ask you questions and interact with you. It's tons of fun.
Mm-hmm. And even on those special episodes, we might be less censored than we are already. And we're going to have a couple fun ones that we can just kind of throw in there and talk about and laugh and go on tangents and have fun. So I hope that you all enjoy it because we're going to have fun along the way. We're crazy excited.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Back to the episode now. Bye.
Gracias.